let's continue to collaborate, because to me the collaboration is delivering a level of creativity and constructiveness that has never been seen in this region before. It's hugely valuable, and let's just keep going with it. So my first slide really just captures what it's all about, and the fact that we've been able to work with Auckland Transport in delivering this summit, I think, is extremely exciting. It wouldn't have been possible even a year ago, but things like this now can happen. And first of all, they're happening because it's just simple things. I'd like to tell the rest of the regions in terms of the NZTA. Stephen doesn't need to listen to this, but from the time when he came to Cycle Action and said, look, our offices are available for you as a place to meet, I didn't think it was a big deal, but I can tell you what, it has probably tripled our output in terms of creativity, the ability to collaborate, the ability to get together, the ability to come to NZTA staff and consult in a casual way. It's absolutely invaluable. And when I hear the other regions throughout the country deploring the fact they have no access at all to the NZTA, you really wonder what's going on in the rest of the country. The next is Auckland Transport. And I'm very grateful that for the last 6 months we've had the ability to meet on a monthly basis with the high-level managers that have impact on cycling. And it's not obviously not just Matt's team, it's Andrew Allen and his Road Corridor Ops team. There's the right people are in the right room to bring stuff together. Now, I've got to say, it's a bit of a learning game that we've got there, but I think we've made progress already, and in a year's time, I think you'll see even more exciting projects coming out of this collaboration. Little things that are happening in Auckland. Barb Insel, who's a member of Cycle Action and also a board member of Bike NZ, she pulled together what she calls the round table event, and a number of you in this room will attend it. It's when she saw that there was a hole in actually bringing those people who are doing exciting projects already together. And she just, on her own initiative, she got that going. At the time she was talking about the fact that Auckland Council was working on a bike plan and none of us knew anything about it. So she pulled those people into the room. And I think we've got to be prepared to do more of that, because not be shy, just say, hey look, here's a gathering, let's get the right people in the room and make it happen. The next thing is the friends across all transport modes. We've got Fuller's in the room here today and also Andrew Ritchie. For Cycle Action, we simply don't see the power of cycling as something that sits on its own. It's all about linking with other transport modes, because there is a slide that I took around the tracks for a while showing what sort of impact you'll get if you put easy access for cycling to train into ferry stations, and it is huge. It means that you can give virtually everyone in Auckland access to easy transport. So it's that sort of thinking that needs to make it happen. Fuller's, quite honestly, have just been a dream friend. We had a very good relationship with NZ Bus for quite a long time, and through that we were able to work on these pilot projects that the Transport Agency funded, getting bus drivers on bikes and riding them around. Now out of that, then Auckland Transport picked up the ball and said, hey, you bus drivers, are you interested in riding to work? And a lot of them were, but they hadn't known how to do so. So out of that came bike training as well. So you can see how one thing leads to another. That is what is happening right across Auckland. To have Andrew here is great for us, because Callum and I went to see him the other day to talk about Callum's project, and for me I was interested in getting back better access to Richie's buses as well, and just to talk to him about how he sees cycling linking in with buses. And Andrew, you probably won't be happy if I say it, but he said, no, I don't actually like these bike racks, but in off-peak times, if someone wants to put a bike on a bus, go for it. Put 1 or 2, 3, just go for it. We're not going to go past a cyclist if they want to hop on one of our buses. So these are sort of messages. What I think we've got to realise is there's no one way to do things. You don't have to have the bike racks. Yeah. That's another conversation you and I'll be having. The other thing, of course, is by being part of this whole Auckland Transport dialogue, we've been part of the planning for the new electric trains, getting dedicated spaces in bike trains. And of course, bikes will travel for nothing under the new regime, because apparently the ticketing can't allow them to take the dollar from us that they do now. So we'll have bikes for free on trains as well. And they'll have dedicated spaces, and we're saying we want those train units designed so we can put max trains in off-peak hours. Why shouldn't we then? Auckland Transport saying. So that, once again, is going to be a completely new Auckland. The next thing for us, I think, is to get people to understand that that's what you can do. The key area that we've been enjoying working in the last year as well is just communicating better and more effectively right across the cycling sector. The Tamaki Drive working group was an interesting exercise that came about when one of the road cyclists, the owner of Mount Eden Cycles, came to Cycle Action and said, look, we're really worried about the behaviour of us as cyclists on the road on Tamaki Drive. What can we do better? Now, out of that has come a collaborative body of work with Auckland Transport, the Auckland Police, but more interesting for Cycle Action is a whole engagement with the road cycling community that simply didn't exist a year ago. That has been quite interesting for us, hugely valuable for me, because you can see the last thing I'll be is a road cyclist, even though I love my bike dearly. But what I've learned is to communicate with the road cyclists and to understand how valuable they are in supplementing the Cycle Action view of Auckland and how it works. I've got to say too often, I know from Bob Insel, my mate, that we've got 750,000 road cyclists, recreational cyclists across New Zealand. Those are the people that I would like to target to, once they've done their morning bike ride, please don't go home, have a shower and hop in the car and ride the exact route on your way to work. That is simply not going to impress the transport agency who's keen to reduce congestion, or Auckland Transport. We've got to get together with Bike NZ and we've got to do a better exercise in getting those people to commute on those bikes. Because I think somebody here has said already, it's just building that push-play into the whole exercise. The social networking has been hugely useful for us. One of our associates, in fact Callum, got us going. Our blog has now been incredibly useful. It's meant that we've had the ability, when we're working with the electric trains, in the space of 48 hours, to survey our members and find out whether they'd rather have bike parking at a train station or the ability to put a bike on a train. It's given us a confidence to be able to communicate messages back to our colleagues in Auckland Transport. The other social networking as well, I mean, it allows, Cycle Action's a small bit player in the whole thing, but it means, for instance, we know Auckland Transport's working on bringing the National Cycle Trail to Auckland. It's quite a big project, that one. Meanwhile, we know we're getting messages all the time from cyclists who want to arrive in Auckland and ride into the centre of the city. So this week we've just gone live with our YouTube on how you do it, how you arrive at the airport, how you come into the centre of the city. We've got to do more and more of that sort of work and plugging in the gaps until something more formal can come along, because we don't have to wait for heavy programs to come along. The Power of Associates, that's a group in Cycle Action who I must admit have been amazingly powerful for us, because what it brings to Cycle Action is a whole body of people who are bringing professional skills pro bono to Cycle Action. And our website is bringing more and more of those to us, as well as the associates. And that obviously increases our capacity to deliver and links us in with a whole lot of other professional networks that make cycling more effective. The last thing I'd want to speak about is combining strength with cycle advisors. I came to Cycle Action about 3 years ago from a background of having been a consultant, planning consultant, and also working in the private sector as a planner. I was used to, my fields of work were quarry development and heritage and increasingly transport. But I was intrigued that when I worked in heritage pro bono, which I commonly did, I was treated with equal respect as a professional. Cycle Action has a big team of professional people who have professional standards. Yes, we have a perspective, but I think if we're honest, everybody coming to a meeting brings a particular perspective. But we're professional in the sense that we're interested in engaging and delivering for cycling. I would like to see more talk about cycling advisors, regardless of where you come from, and less about they're an advocate and we'll put them in that group and we'll devalue what they say. We're simply wasting a big resource if we do that. The next thing is unlocking barriers, and the barriers that I started talking about were those which we all heard Roger Geller when he came to New Zealand earlier in the year. And initially, this is the 1%, the strong and fearless, who ride the roads anywhere, anytime. Cycle Action began earlier this year talking about trying to engage with the enthused and confident because they're the low-hanging fruit. typical in Cycle Action, I've now been told that we actually, no, we're interested and concerned as well, for good reason, because that's how we're going to really change this city for cycling. So that's a little picture of what we need to be doing. How do we do it? We always thought it was through the magic of good infrastructure, and that's how we first started working with the NZTA, because they were delivering, let's be honest, the very best infrastructure in cycling that we have seen in Auckland for very many years. That was our first discussion. That's when Cycle Action generated the idea of the radial routes, which were the off-road cycle lanes that followed the north and south motorways along with the northwestern and coming in from the east as well. But we realised that that wasn't going to happen overnight because there's not much money around. So then we started working on the idea of spreading the sparse dollars, and that's a program that we've got going with Auckland Transport, where Cycle Action takes a first cut review of one of the regional cycle network roads, plots out problems, and we sit down together and we devise ways in which quick fixes can be delivered and others longer term. I've got to be honest and say that the budget of $150,000 is not going to go far, and I will be raising with them the fact that if we're serious about collaboration, we actually need to put more money into that area. But the key point is that we're working together to get better use out of the sparse dollars that are there, and I think we have to be real about that. But in the context, I see Pippa sitting here, supporting those in the hot seats and the politicians. The essence of what we're doing is if we don't convince the politicians that cycling is what Auckland needs, then we're just wasting our time. The last feature that we're working on now is, I showed you the little picture of who we're focusing on. This interested and concerned, we're now looking at Cycle Action, a professional study of just who those people are and what their actual barriers are. And by doing that, we need to get some hard data so that when we're doing the next round of funding submissions, we've got some Auckland relevant data to put in front of those politicians, and we owe it to them to give them that information. I talk about them being in the hot seat. The bottom line, the election's next year, and they're fighting for their existence. So let's not make their job hard. We have to allow them to justify those decisions. The other thing is fun. Next year we've got the February cycle month. Let's have a cyclovia on the whole of Tamaki Drive, can't we? Because we know that the public will just get out there in large numbers. Once again, the politicians will see that cycling is actually what a whole range of people want to do. So that's the essence of my presentation. But if I could just make a couple of points in relation to what we've heard today. I was really glad that Alex and Reese bookended this whole presentation, because what they told us is the essence of that how cycling and better transport is fundamental to people's employment, which is fundamental to their well-being. And we know that there are large areas of Auckland where that issue simply isn't being addressed. We also know, there's been fantastic presentations here on children and cycling. We know that the Mayor loves children and cycling, but we also know that adults need to cycle. It was shown when Auckland Transport said to those bus drivers, who wants to have a bike, who wants to ride? And they put their hands up. We've got to be more engaged with adults in cycling. We've got to be more engaged with the communities that Alex and Reese have spoken about. It's not easy. I've got to say, Cycle Action doesn't have a constituency there. We've got to learn how to do it. But the challenge that I say is that we hope that Stephen will host us again, and that we'll be doing this next year, and that there will be a situation where a lot more people are telling us that we're actually delivering on that challenge that's been laid down today.